Hi, I hope you're okay. My name is Jen and I have type 1 diabetes, and today I'm going to be talking about hypos or low blood sugars. My week in hypo specifically, because last week was Hypo Awareness week in the UK and it kind of got me thinking a bit, and I'd like to step back and reflect and look back on my week in hypos. So first I should probably explain for those of you that don't know what a hypo is. Hypo is an abbreviated term for hypoglycemia, which is also known as a low blood sugar or low blood glucose. As a type 1 diabetic, I basically spend my life trying to keep my blood sugar levels within a safe zone. And that's the zone where I can function and go about my day and live my life as normal. If your blood sugar levels drop too low or too high, you basically need to take action and treat it. If you have a low blood sugar, you will need some fast acting glucose. I have made a video actually about my preferred low blood sugar treatments, so I'll leave that in a link somewhere visible so that you can go and check that out if you want to after you've watched this very entertaining video. Thanks. If I was a different kind of person, I'm not going to say better, I'm not going to say more organised. If I was a different kind of person, maybe I would have tracked all this the week before Hypo Awareness week so I could release this video while Hypo Awareness week was going on. I didn't do that. This is a reflection, and you know what? As a type 1 diabetic, hypos are for life, not just for Hypo Awareness week. Yes, I'm late to the party. Made it to the party though. Managing your diabetes is a day-to-day process and life just gets in the way. Hypos and hypers do happen, as this video will illustrate. But you know, I'm not going to be too hard on myself. Living with type 1 diabetes is a very interesting life indeed, and you know, you can live exactly the same life 2 days in a row and have completely different blood sugars. So them's just the breaks. Let's get the week started. I woke up on Monday morning. The first thing I do every morning is test my blood sugar level. I woke up with a slightly high blood sugar of 11 that morning. I knew exactly why this was. It was because I had pizza the night before, and whenever I eat pizza, it's a bit tricky to navigate. That's because it contains high levels of both carbohydrate and fat. As the fat is processed, it delays the release of glucose into the bloodstream, so you get this delayed spike in your blood sugar levels. Although I'd set an extended bolus, I didn't quite get it right, and so I just had myself a little correction dose and carried on about my morning. However, by the time I got to work, this is less than 2 hours from waking up, I had my first hypo of the week. Obviously, my body was aware that I wanted to film this video and made sure I had something to demonstrate. That wasn't ideal. I don't often get those sudden drops in the morning. My bloods tend to run a little bit higher first thing in the morning, as I get something called dawn phenomenon, which spikes your blood glucose slightly. For whatever reason, this particular morning I had a massive drop in blood sugars between leaving the house and getting to work. Maybe something to do with the commute. I live in London, so it's quite busy. Who knows? I do have hypo awareness, not everyone does, so I get a little bit breathless, I get quite shaky, I've got a funny feeling in my head that I can't quite process my thoughts properly, and shakiness in my legs. That's what I felt as I got off the tube and went into work, so I tested accordingly. Then I knew I had to take something to correct the low blood glucose, so I had something in my bag. I had dried fruit in this instance, and 20 grams was enough to raise my blood sugar, enough to carry on with my morning, and I needed a strong coffee to get me going after that rather dramatic start to the day. The rest of the day went by without a diabetes hitch, so that's great news. Tuesday morning, I woke up again with a blood sugar of 11, and this time I was slightly annoyed. I went to the gym the night before, so my metabolism was running and ticking along, and I ate quite a low carb dinner, so there wasn't really a reason that I could fathom as to why I'd woken up with this blood sugar. When I went to bed the night before, my blood sugar was fine, so yeah, I was a bit annoyed with this one, I'm not gonna lie, but again, I had a correction dose. But I had a slightly lower one for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I didn't want to repeat the hypo of the day before. Secondly, it was very early in the morning because I was getting up and going filming. This is a really good example of when I don't want diabetes to get in the way of my life. I had a job to do. I wanted to focus on the job in hand. I was filming someone going into surgery in an operating theatre. I had to leave my bag in a locker room because I wasn't allowed to take it into the area we were in because obviously it has to be quite sterile. So I did a blood test before I went into the situation and I was fine. And you know, I thought if anything goes wrong, I'm in a hospital. I'm not gonna lie, leaving my diabetes equipment in another room, in a locked room elsewhere in the hospital, did make me feel a little bit anxious. As someone with type 1 diabetes, it is so rare that I'm not side by side with my diabetes equipment. You just get used to having it around or in very close proximity. Relinquishing that sort of slight element of control does make me pay more attention to my diabetes, and you're almost over aware of maybe what is happening in terms of your blood sugars. I knew that I wasn't going hypo because, as I said, I do have hypo awareness, and it allowed me to get on with the job in hand. I finished filming, went back to the locker room, got out of my wonderful scrubs that I'd been wearing for the filming, became reunited with my bag, and immediately did a glucose check to make sure that my blood sugars were okay. I was still at 11. I had been at 11 the whole morning, and this is despite the fact I hadn't eaten any breakfast, which is so rare for me, but it was so early when I got up, and also I was feeling a bit nervous about the work, so I don't think I was particularly hungry. Yeah, so I hadn't eaten all morning and still sitting at 11. Couple of reasons I think for that. First of all, slight nerves around the work, so that tends to push your blood sugars up slightly. Second of all, there was a bit of downtime in the middle of the morning and I went and got myself a cappuccino from the canteen. Through previous experience, I'm well aware that hot milk in hot coffees and hot drinks like that will push my blood sugar levels up slightly. So I think maybe the combination of the two had kept my blood sugar levels slightly higher, even though I'd had this correction dose first thing and even though I'd been running around all morning. So it just goes to show there's no rhyme or reason to this stuff sometimes. The rest of the day though, my blood sugars were absolutely fine. Wednesday morning, I woke up with a blood sugar of 3.8. Now, technically this is classed as a hypo. In my head, that is quite a good blood sugar level to wake up at for a couple of reasons. Firstly, as explained, I get something called dawn phenomenon, which means my blood sugars tend to go up in the morning. And second of all, it meant I could eat straight away once I'd had my breakfast insulin without waiting for the insulin to start working. Once I start thinking about food, I get very impatient. So if my blood sugar is much higher than say 6 or 7, I need to wait a little bit between having my insulin dose and being able to eat. That's not something I enjoy. So 3.8, although it is slightly low, meant I could dose my insulin, eat my beloved peanut butter on toast. This breakfast, peanut butter on toast, I have most mornings, so I know exactly how much to bolus for it. I've worked out the calculations I need and I know where I'm at, so I was quite confident that I wouldn't have any kind of low blood sugar in the morning. As I'd hoped, I had a rather glorious blood glucose of 6.6 before I tucked into my lunch on Wednesday. So far, so good for Wednesday. In the weekday, I try and make my lunch as often as possible. There are a few reasons for this. One, it is expensive to buy your lunch in central London. Two, my lunches are so much better than the lunches you can buy in central London. Three, I know exactly what's gone into it, so I can count the carbohydrates total in the meal. I know if there's any hidden funkiness in sauces or things like that, or I know if I've got a little bit greedy with my helpings. It's just easier to navigate as someone with type 1 diabetes when you make your own lunch and you know exactly what's gone into it. Case in point, Wednesday evening I ended up going out for dinner unexpectedly. I had a couple of drinks as well. In the last 22 years of living with type 1 diabetes and being really excellent at eating food, I'm really good at it. I have got okay at guesstimating the carbohydrate portions in front of me when I'm eating out. You can kind of suss out roughly what you need, but it's always going to be a little bit of guesswork. add alcohol into the mix as well, and it does shake things up a little bit. So I think what happened here is I slightly overcompensated for the food I was eating, and I woke up on Thursday morning with a blood sugar of 3.4, which is definitely a hypo, and my second hypo of the week. This is definitely on the low side. I wouldn't recommend waking up at 3.4. I did have those familiar shaky feelings, but again, this wasn't so dramatically low that I felt really, really ill, and it meant I could again eat my breakfast very quickly without waiting for the insulin to work. I'm an adult. I made adult choices about food and drink the night before, and I got it a little bit wrong, but there we go. I had a lovely evening. Friday morning, 5 days into the week, I finally woke up with a so-called perfect blood sugar of 5.6. This is an ideal blood sugar. I don't like to talk about good blood sugars and bad blood sugars because I think apportioning a personality to a blood sugar will lead you down a long, dangerous road of guilt. Friday night, I again ate out because my mum came to visit, so we were very excited that she was in town, and we went down the road to a local Vietnamese. Vietnamese is a tricky one because they do have a lot of sweet sauces or hidden sweetness in their food, but my goodness, it is delicious. And did we enjoy ourselves? Yes, we did. So there we have it, my week in hypos. Admittedly only 5 days, but I think we all get the picture, don't we? Yes. Hopefully that's interesting. I have no idea if that's of any interest to anyone else. I found it useful to step back and take stock. Stepping back and looking at the week as a whole, I could definitely account for most of the blood sugar readings. If I was a little on the low side, I kind of knew why. If I was a little on the high side, I also mostly knew why. So that kind of suggests that I know what I'm doing, but I'm just not always putting it into practice. And I like spontaneous dinners, and I like the odd drink or two, and I'm not always going to be perfect. But I know that I'm most of the time working with my body to do the best I can, living with quite a complex condition. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please don't judge my blood sugars. They are mine, they're not yours. I'm not telling anyone else how to live their life. That is just how my week played out. Thanks so much for watching. Give it a like if you found it interesting, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, and I will see you all very soon. Bye.